Most mornings out here, I walk the same path between the beds before the fog lifts. The Douglas firs are still dripping, the soil's cold and dark, and something's growing in every corner I look. But here's the thing that stayed with me long after I left nursing. In 20 years at the bedside, the most common deficiency I saw wasn't iron. It wasn't vitamin D. It was protein, specifically the quality of protein people were eating, and the gap between what was affordable and what was actually working inside the body. Beef gets held up as the gold standard, and for some things it earns that. But when I started looking at what I was growing, really looking, with the same critical eye I used to read lab results, I started finding numbers I couldn't ignore. Some of these plants, things most people mow over or compost, carry more protein per 100 grams than a cut of beef from your local butcher. Not protein that your body half recognizes, protein with full amino acid profiles, including the ones your body cannot manufacture on its own. Beef sirloin runs about 26 grams of protein per 100 grams. Hemp seeds run 31. That's not a rounding error, that's a real gap. And it comes packaged with something beef doesn't carry: a complete amino acid profile in a near-perfect 3-to-1 omega ratio. The specific amino acid I always circle in my notes is edestin. It's a globulin protein, the same structural family as the proteins your immune system uses to build antibodies. Think of it as a building block that speaks your body's own language. The body doesn't have to do much translation. In my nursing years, we talked about bioavailability as the real measure of a food. Not what's listed on the label, but how much your digestive system actually captures and puts to use. Hemp seeds consistently score well on that measure. The protein is soft-structured, easy to break apart, and doesn't depend on high stomach acid to unlock. 3 tablespoons on your morning oats. That's it. No grinding, no soaking, no prep. The hull is soft enough that you get the protein without any processing step. If you want the oil profile intact, keep them raw and refrigerated. Heat above about 160 Fahrenheit begins to shift the omega-3 fats. Cold storage is a simple habit that protects the whole point of eating them. Spirulina is a cyanobacterium, a photosynthetic microorganism that has been eaten by people living around alkaline lakes in Chad and Mexico for centuries. It is not a recent invention. It is not a trend. It is one of the oldest food sources on record. Per 100 grams, dried spirulina delivers approximately 57 grams of protein. To put that in perspective, that's more than double the protein density of beef by weight. The key qualifier is that you're comparing dried powder to raw meat, but the protein architecture holds up under that comparison regardless. What makes it clinically interesting is phycocyanin, the pigment that makes it blue-green. Evidence indicates this compound acts as a blocker against the inflammation signal that, when left unchecked, is what we used to call the slow burn in the ward, a fire that nobody sets an alarm for because it doesn't hurt until years later. 1 teaspoon into a glass of cold water with lemon juice. The citric acid improves the absorption of the iron it carries, and it cuts the taste, which, I'll be honest, takes getting used to. Start at half a teaspoon and build up over a week. The protein is highly accessible. Spirulina has no rigid cell wall to break down, but some people experience a mild digestive adjustment in the first few days regardless. Give your system time to meet it. Nutritional yeast was something we kept in the break room. Nobody called it a protein source. It was just what a few of the plant-based nurses added to everything. I paid more attention when I looked at the numbers. Roughly 50 grams of protein per 100 grams, dry weight. A complete amino acid profile, and a B vitamin load that is, in a practical sense, its own separate argument for eating it, particularly B12 in the fortified varieties, which is the one deficiency that genuinely frightens me in people who have reduced their animal protein intake significantly. Always check the label. B12 is added, not inherent. The protein in deactivated yeast is primarily in the form of glutamic acid chains and nucleotides, structures that act as natural flavor compounds. That's why it tastes like aged cheese. The umami signal is real, not manufactured. 2 tablespoons over roasted vegetables or stirred into soups. It doesn't need heat. You can add it after cooking, but it holds up fine at cooking temperatures if you want it to melt into the base of a sauce. Keep it sealed and dry. Humidity degrades the B vitamins faster than anything else. A glass jar in a cool pantry is all it needs. At 30 grams of protein per 100 grams, pumpkin seeds sit right alongside beef on the density chart. But what separates them from most plant seeds is their tryptophan content. Tryptophan is one of the 9 essential amino acids, the ones your body cannot build itself. It's the direct precursor to serotonin. The conversion pathway runs tryptophan to 5-HTP to serotonin. Your gut handles most of that production, not your brain. So what you feed your gut matters more than most people realize. Pumpkin seeds also carry a notable zinc concentration, approximately 7 milligrams per 100 grams, which is relevant for immune function and for the testosterone pathway in men. Studies suggest the combination of zinc and tryptophan in a single food source is relatively uncommon in the plant kingdom. Toast them dry in a cast iron pan for 3 to 4 minutes on medium heat. No oil needed, the seed's own fat is sufficient. The shell opens, the flavor deepens, and the zinc bioavailability improves with light heat. A small handful, about 30 grams, as an afternoon snack. Paired with a piece of fruit, the natural sugars help transport the tryptophan across into the brain more efficiently. That pairing is not incidental. It's the way traditional diets assembled these foods before we had the science to explain why. Lentils at 26 grams of protein per 100 grams, dry weight, are exactly level with beef sirloin. But here's what I always found interesting as a nurse watching blood work. Lentils carry a type of carbohydrate that slows the rate at which your blood sugar responds to a meal. That slow release is driven by resistant starch and soluble fiber. Together, they act like a speed bump in your digestive tract. The whole meal moves through more deliberately, your blood sugar doesn't spike, and your body has more time to actually dismantle and absorb the protein before it passes. Beef doesn't carry that buffer. The protein arrives fast, and for some metabolic types, that speed has its own downstream effects. The one gap worth knowing: lentils are low in methionine, which is one of the sulfur-containing essential amino acids. The traditional fix, which cultures across the Middle East, India, and North Africa arrived at independently, is to pair lentils with a grain. Rice or bread closes that amino acid gap in a single meal. No soaking required for red lentils. They cook in 15 minutes flat in twice their volume of water. Green and black varieties benefit from a 4-hour soak. It reduces the phytic acid that, at high concentrations, competes with mineral absorption. Add a strip of dried kombu seaweed to the cooking water. It contains enzymes that pre-digest the oligosaccharides responsible for most of the digestive discomfort people associate with legumes. Remove the kombu before serving. This is a technique from Japanese home cooking that has a real biochemical basis. Moringa leaf powder runs between 25 and 27 grams of protein per 100 grams, depending on the drying method. But the reason I grow it in the greenhouse here in Oregon, and it does need a warm, sheltered spot, isn't primarily the protein. It's the co-nutrient density. Moringa carries calcium at concentrations comparable to dairy, iron at levels comparable to red meat, and vitamin C in the fresh leaf that, when combined with its iron, creates a self-contained absorption system. The vitamin C converts the plant-based iron into the form your blood actually uses. The leaf carries its own absorption key. Evidence indicates that isothiocyanates, the sulfur compounds in moringa, interact with the NF-κB signaling pathway, which is essentially the body's main switch for the internal inflammation process. Preliminary observations suggest that regular consumption may help moderate that switch in a meaningful way. 1 teaspoon of dried moringa powder stirred into warm, not boiling, water. Temperatures above 70 degrees Celsius begin to degrade the isothiocyanates. Think of it like making a gentle tea rather than a boil. The fresh leaves, if you can grow them, go straight into a salad. They have a mild flavor, something between spinach and watercress. The fresh form retains all heat-sensitive compounds that the dried powder loses. For those of us in the Pacific Northwest, A south-facing greenhouse corner from April through September works. At 11 grams per 100 grams fresh, or approximately 36 grams in dried mature soybeans, edamame is immature soybean, harvested before the pod hardens. The protein it carries is the most extensively studied plant protein in clinical literature, and for good reason. Soy protein scores at the top of the PDCAAS scale, protein digestibility corrected amino acid score, reaching the maximum of 1.0 in its isolate form, the same ceiling as meat and eggs. Whole edamame scores close to that. The controversy around soy usually centers on isoflavones, compounds that have a loose structural resemblance to estrogen, evidence from population studies. Particularly in East Asian cohorts where soy consumption is generational and high, does not support the narrative that regular edamame consumption disrupts hormonal balance in adults at typical dietary levels. The concern may be more applicable to concentrated isolate supplements than to whole food edamame. What I watch for clinically is the phytate content. Like lentils, edamame contains phytic acid that can reduce mineral absorption when consumed in very high quantities alongside iron-rich foods. The simple fix is not to eat it as your only protein source. Use it as one of several. Steam in the pod for exactly 5 minutes in salted water. The pod stays closed and acts as a natural steaming chamber. Eat straight from the pod. Push the bean out with your teeth. The pod itself is not digestible and is not meant to be swallowed. Frozen edamame is not a compromise. The blanching process used before freezing has minimal effect on protein structure, and the convenience often means people eat it consistently rather than sporadically. Consistency is what drives outcomes. Chlorella carries approximately 58 grams of protein per 100 grams dry. That puts it alongside spirulina at the top of the plant protein density chart. The difference between the two is structural. Spirulina has no true cell wall, and chlorella does. That cell wall is why you need broken cell wall chlorella, the specific form on any reputable label. The intact wall is almost entirely indigestible. The protein is locked inside. The breaking process, typically mechanical bead milling, where the cells are ground against tiny beads at high speed, ruptures the wall and makes the contents bioavailable. Without that step, you're paying for protein your body cannot access. The binding capacity of chlorella's cell wall fragments has been studied in the context of heavy metal elimination. Evidence is based on recorded ethnopharmacological use and animal studies more than robust human clinical trials at this stage. But the mechanism is plausible and the subject of ongoing research. I mention it not as a claim, but as context for why some practitioners include it. 3 grams per day, about 1 teaspoon, in water or a smoothie. The flavor is pond-like, I won't deceive you. Mixed with a strong fruit like mango or pineapple, it disappears. If you're taking any prescription medication, check with your doctor before adding chlorella. The binding properties that make it interesting for detox pathways work indiscriminately. There is a theoretical interaction with some medications depending on timing. A 2-hour gap between medication and chlorella is the standard precaution. Amaranth was a staple grain of the Aztec food system before Spanish colonizers systematically dismantled its cultivation. The reason they targeted it is, in a strange way, evidence of how important it was. It was eaten at religious ceremonies, which made it a cultural symbol worth suppressing. That history is part of why it nearly disappeared from agriculture for 300 years. At around 4 grams of protein per 100 grams cooked, or approximately 14 grams dry, amaranth sits lower on the raw density chart than the algae we've covered. But that's not the argument for it. Amaranth's protein distinction is lysine. Lysine is the amino acid that grains almost universally lack. Wheat, rice, corn, oats, all low in lysine. Amaranth is not. And lysine is specifically required for collagen synthesis and calcium absorption, making its absence from grain-heavy diets a real structural gap, not a theoretical one. The seed also carries squalene, an oil compound found at higher concentrations in shark liver, which has been studied for its effects on cell membrane integrity. In amaranth, Concentrations are lower, but the compound is identical. Preliminary observations suggest this may contribute to the cardiovascular profile seen in traditional Andean and Mesoamerican populations where amaranth consumption remained high. Cook it like porridge, 1 part amaranth seed to 3 parts water. Bring to a boil, then reduce to a low simmer for 20 minutes. The seeds become translucent, and the liquid thickens to a slightly gelatinous consistency. That's the starch releasing, not a sign anything went wrong. Or pop it dry in a hot pan, small batches, no oil, 30 seconds, and it becomes a nutty, light topping for salads, yogurt, or soups. The popped form changes the starch structure slightly, which some people find easier to digest. 2 tablespoons carries approximately 3 grams of complete protein with that lysine advantage intact. 9 plants, and what they share is something that took me a while to put into words clearly. They're not trying to replace beef. They're filling the gaps that a beef-only approach leaves: amino acid gaps, co-nutrient gaps, digestive support gaps. I spent 20 years watching what happened when those gaps weren't filled. And I spent the years after that learning what grows in my own soil that could fill them. The most important thing I'd leave you with: none of these 9 plants require you to overhaul your diet. Any one of them, added consistently to what you're already eating, shifts the nutritional profile of your meals in a direction your body will eventually notice. If this gave you something to think about, something to plant or look for at the market, I'd ask you to subscribe and hit the bell. New videos go up every week, and next time we're going into something that has been growing at the edge of my beds for 2 years that I only recently understood properly. You won't want to miss that one, and I want to hear from you in the comments. Which of these 9 do you already grow or eat, and have you noticed a difference in how you feel? Not looking for testimonials, just genuinely curious what your experience has been. Tell me below.